In finance, there is a way to calculate precisely how much of the systematic risk, the non-diversifiable risk, the fluctuations in returns that are beyond your control, is how much of it is in an asset. We're gonna skip the math, and we're gonna look at just how to interpret the number that comes out of those calculations that we are skipping in this book. So all we're gonna say is that the systematic risk has a formula, how it can be calculated, and the formula is the beta. So the beta equals something which we are skipping. Beta is the notation we use for the amount of systematic risk. So the beta coefficient shows how much systematic risk a particular company stock has. And the important part of the definition is that we are using the market portfolio as the benchmark. So beta captures this comparison of a particular company stock relative to the market portfolio. Remember what market portfolio was? That was a portfolio which is very well diversified, which has practically no diversifiable risk remaining. That's the so-called Standard & Poor's 500 index, which is a portfolio of 500 largest companies in this country. So the benchmark is beta for the market portfolio equal to 1. You can also say that the beta for an average company stock is equal to 1. So 1 for the beta means on average how any company stock in this country fluctuates based on like those type of caused by those type of events that we call economy-wide or on a global scale rather than specific to a particular company. So something we have no control over. So on average, the fluctuations that a company has when caused by those type of big events, they are like captured in this beta calculation, and that average fluctuation amount is equal to 1. So let's look at this table where we have different companies: General Mills, Coca-Cola Bottling, ExxonMobil, 3M, The Gap, eBay, and Yahoo. Let's look at a couple of those. Coca-Cola Bottling, the beta coefficient equals 0.65. And then let's also look at eBay's beta, which is 1.35. By the way, betas for all companies are available on websites like Google Finance or Yahoo Finance. They're kind of known numbers. So for eBay, it's 1.35. For Coca-Cola Bottling, it's 0.65. 1 is below 1 for Coca-Cola. 1 is above 1. Below, so all we're going to say is that anything that's below 1 means there is less risk than for the amount of risk observed for an average company in the economy, or for the market portfolio, in other words. So because the beta for Coca-Cola is only 0.65, that's below 1, right? And because of the systematic risk principle, we're going to say that it's less risky when by risk we only focus on the fluctuations in returns that we have no control over. Less risky than the market portfolio. And because of that, it should have a lower expected return than the market portfolio or than an average stock in the economy. eBay's beta is 1.35. That's above 1. So we will say exactly the opposite. It's riskier than the market portfolio, or you can rephrase and say it's riskier than an average company stock. And because of that, it should have a higher expected return. So to summarize, we are saying high risk, high return. And by risk, we mean the systematic risk or the market risk or the non-diversifiable risk, which is measured by beta. Okay, let's look at this example. we have two stocks, A and B, and we have sigma and beta for each. The sigma for A is 40%, the sigma for B is 20%. The beta for A is 0.5, the beta for B is 1.5. Question: which stock should have a higher expected return and why? Okay, so you can look at it and realize that the sigma is 40% for A, 20% for B. Sigma is the standard deviation of returns. So stock A returns fluctuate a lot more than stock B returns. And so you may think that it's correct to say that A is riskier, and because of that, A should reward investors with a higher expected return. However, this is a wrong way to analyze this problem, because what is sigma? Sigma is what we mean by total risk. So it's just, fluctuations in returns, on average how far they are from the expected return. But what is the difference between the sigma and the beta? Beta also measures risk, but it's only part of sigma. It's only kind of limited fluctuations, limited to those fluctuations in returns caused by events that are on a large scale, not unique to a particular company like company A or company B, but something bigger like a recession or recovery in the economy that affects both companies in the same direction. This is the systematic risk, right? Or the non-diversifiable risk or market risk. And this is from the previous slides, the so-called systematic risk principle. This is really the only thing we should care about when we talk about high risk, high return, right? So by high risk, we should only focus on the systematic risk. Which stock has a higher systematic risk? Stock B, because 1.5 for stock B is higher than only 0.5 for stock A. And this means that a big part of firm A's firm-specific risk can be eliminated by forming a portfolio. And so what's remaining, the beta of 0.5, indicates that there is relatively very little left in the fluctuations that are caused not by something specific to firm A events, but something specific to other events that affect firm A. Because only the non-diversifiable risk should be rewarded, B with a higher beta should have a higher expected return. Can we calculate beta for a portfolio, let's say 2 or 3 or more stocks? Yes, we can. It's just the weighted average of individual stocks' betas. So the weight of security number 1 multiplied by its beta plus the weight of security number 2 multiplied by beta, and so on. So the number of products in the sum equals the number of stocks in your portfolio. For example, the beta of stock A is 1.5, the beta of stock B is 0.8. And let's say you invest 30% of your money into stock A shares and 70% of your money into stock B shares. What's the overall beta of this portfolio? The beta of the portfolio of stock A and stock B equals the weight of stock A, 30% or 0.3 in decimals, multiplied by the beta of stock A, which is 1.5 given, plus the weight of stock B in the portfolio, which is 70% or 0.7 in decimals, multiplied by the beta of stock B, 0.8, which is given. The math gives us 1.01. What does it mean? How can you interpret this number? It's very close to 1, which is how an average stock returns behave like when like how big large-scale events affect returns of an average company stock, or we can say the market portfolio, which is a combination of largest 500 company stocks. 1.01 is pretty much 1, so it's barely above 1, the benchmark. So we can say that this portfolio of A and B is just a little bit riskier than the market portfolio.